Let's start tonight by taking a deeper look at our criminal justice system. Last year, Oregon lawmakers passed a new law saying that you can't keep someone in jail just because they can't afford to pay bail. It kicked in July 1st. Now, judges are supposed to evaluate a suspect's prior criminal record and public safety risk when deciding whether to hold someone in jail before their trial. The new law came into sharp focus this past week after a shocking alleged hate crime where the accused was quickly set free. Investigative reporter Evan Watson explains.
Portland police arrested Dylan Kesterson on Saturday after a reported racially motivated attack along the east side of the Willamette River. The victims, a father and his 5-year-old daughter from California, both of Japanese descent, said Kesterson yelled anti-Asian slurs at them before he started punching them. Portland police charged Kesterson with first and second-degree bias crime, but not assault. Police said the victims did not require medical attention at the scene, and the Oregon statute for assault requires physical injury. Lewis and Clark law professor Tung Yin says if officers don't see evidence of physical injury, they might avoid assault-related charges. But it's possible other officers could view a situation differently.
Maybe judgment is a better way of putting it than discretion. Again, you have to look at what each crime would require to be proven, and the officer has to decide, okay, if I turn this over to the prosecutor, is there enough here that we think the prosecutor will be able to make the case?
Kesterson was booked and released from jail, told to come back for his hearing. A few days later, the district attorney's office reviewed the case and added 5 charges, including assault and attempted assault. So why weren't those charges added on the initial booking? Well, after the reported assault, the father went to the hospital for care. Police said that gave the DA more information that they could use to justify more charges, which is not uncommon. One of those new charges was attempted assault in the second degree. Under Multnomah County's presiding judge order, that's a violent felony charge, and a judge would have detained Kesterson until his hearing. But by this point, the damage had been done. Kesterson had already been released. He didn't show up for his hearing, and police had to find and arrest him again. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler said it was outrageous that Kesterson was released and then arrested twice, saying the criminal justice system needs to be reviewed to fix these broken elements. But the Oregon criminal justice system was just reviewed, and the state changed the rules for pretrial release and detention. Starting July 1st, Oregon moved away from a bail-based system to a system that focuses more on an individual's danger to the community. The goal is to center release categories on the seriousness of the charges and any criminal history, rather than how much money a person can pay.
The reasons for it are, first, sort of a recognition that people are being deprived of their liberty, and the consequences are unevenly distributed.
Circuit courts across the state created their own orders to set the new release criteria. The chief criminal judge for the Multnomah County Circuit Court told KGW that for bias crimes, Multnomah County's consequences are already more strict than what's required under state law. In Kesterson's case, because he didn't have other arrests or convictions in Oregon and the assault charges had not been added when the judge reviewed the case, he was released from jail before his arraignment. Moving forward, judges will use their court's rubrics to determine whether to release or hold someone in jail before their hearing or trial. Evan Watson, KGW News.
According to court records, the man charged with that assault is homeless. Earlier this week, we talked about him briefly, then moved on to focus on another homeless man who savagely beat 2 80-year-olds who were simply waiting for a bus in downtown Portland. That man later told police he'd wondered about his own mental health, and that launched us into several deep dives on the mental health system and why it's so hard to get dangerous people, often chronically homeless, off our streets and into treatment. You had so much to say that I want to continue highlighting some of your comments tonight. Thomas wrote in to say, early help is essential. As a school superintendent for more than 30 years, I know that many families do not have primary care physicians. If mental health care is needed, they often have nowhere to turn for services. I also think that the first thought of a homeless person in crisis is not that they need to go to a primary care physician as a first step. Other early interventions are needed. Some of your messages are downright heartbreaking. Here's one from Jack talking about his son.
My 52-year-old son died of fentanyl off of the street. He was in and out many different situations where he could have got mental help, and he was never given that help.
So sorry to hear that. Howard emailed today, and while he's not talking about Jack's son, it almost sounds like he is. He wrote, "I am an almost retired psychiatrist, very interested in mental health issues in this community. I feel that there is a lack of understanding, professionals and facilities to treat people in general, but especially those on the street that can be a danger to others, also to themselves. These people can have both addiction and mental health disorders that need to be addressed." But right now, it's not easy to find help, even if you are a doctor. David wrote in to say, "I'm a doctor and often struggle to help patients access the mental health care that they need." We also talked this week about the need to change Oregon's law to make it easier to force someone to get help when they are unable to care for themselves or are a danger to themselves or others. Janet called in with a message on why that is so important.
I just lost a friend who took 3 months to deteriorate in his home, and we called the police repeatedly, but because he could refuse treatment, he is now dead. He was obviously in mental and physical distress, and yet because he could refuse treatment, even though he was out of his mind, he got no treatment, and he's now dead.
So disturbing. And there is a lot of anguish and pain that goes with this topic. And as we explore it, I really hope we don't make it any worse for you. There is hope, by the way. We've been talking about people who fall through the cracks and the system being broken. But it's good to remember that many people do just fine and lead successful lives once they get help. So let's end with an uplifting call from Daniel.
Treatment is one thing, but specifically medication is very important. It has been in my case. And I'm schizophrenic. And I was diagnosed in 1980, and I've been successful. I went back to school and got a master's degree in social work, and I've been I work in the field. I work in a group home for the mentally ill. The very place you're talking about is an alternative to the damaged state hospital. Anyway, I'm doing it, Pat, and I appreciate your story, and that was very good. I'm glad I tuned in tonight.
I'm really glad you did as well, Dan. Thank you for tuning in. Good for you. Keep going. Our community needs you. If you have comments or